Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome you all. Let me welcome you all on behalf of the university management, staff and students of this great university, under the leadership of our amiable Vice Chancellor, Professor Olatunji. Welcome you all to the 97th Inaugural Lecture of this university, titled Ikunle-Abiyamo, Childbirth, and the 28-day journey, the chances and the choices. Before the program commences, I will want to implore you all to make sure you observe the COVID protocol. There must be an empty seat in between two persons. Of course, the lecture is to be delivered by a distinguished Professor of Paediatrics from Faculty of Clinical Sciences of Awolowo College of Health Sciences, Professor TINUADE, ADETUTU, OGUNLESI. I therefore want to implore you all to all rise as we welcome the procession of principal officers and other distinguished academics of this university. Shall we all rise, please? Thank you very much. Next to her is the Dean of Basic Medical Sciences, Professor Mrs. M.B. Ogun. Next to her is the Dean Faculty of Science, Professor L.O. Adebajo. We equally have the Acting Dean Faculty of Law, Dr. Paed Akinrin-Made. He is ably represented by Idowu Adebete Esquire. Next to him is the Dean Faculty of Education, in person of Professor Olufemi Kalesonwo. We equally have next to him the Dean Faculty of Social Sciences, Professor I.A. Ademiluyi. Next to him is the Dean Faculty of Administration and Management Science, Professor R.O.C. Shomoye. We equally have the Provost, College of Engineering and Environmental Studies, Professor J.O. Emi. Next to him is the Provost of Awolowo College of Health Sciences, Professor A.O. Olatunji. Next to him is Provost, School of Postgraduate Studies, Professor Olusegun Lawal. Next to him is the pastor of the university, Mr. Semiu Makinde, FCA, followed by the university registrar, Mr. Femi Ogun. Next to him is the Deputy Chancellor of Administration, Professor Charles Adekoya, closely followed by the Deputy Chancellor of Academic, Professor Ayodeji. The inaugural lecturer of today, Professor TINUADE, ADETUTU, Ogunlesi. Then, the Vice Chancellor of this great university, our amiable Vice Chancellor, the chairman of today's occasion, the person of Professor Ganiyu Olatunji Olatunde. You're most welcome.
I'm not blocking this.
On this note, I want to humbly invite the registrar of this great university, Mr. Femi Ogun, who in turn will invite our amiable Vice Chancellor to declare this program open. The registrar. Thank you very much. And we have our seats. Thank you very much.
May I humbly invite the Vice Chancellor, Professor Ganiyu Olatunji Olatunde, to declare this 97th inaugural lecture open. The Vice Chancellor, sir.
distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I declare the 97th Inaugural Lecture open. Thank you.
May I again please request the Vice Chancellor to introduce the inaugural lecturer of today, Professor TINUADE ADETUTU OGUNLESI, the Vice Chancellor, sir.
Citation of Professor TINUADE ADETUTU OGUNLESI. Professor TINUADE ADETUTU OGUNLESI was born on the 7th of February 1970 in Irolu-Remo, Ikene local government area of Ogun State. He had his primary, elementary and secondary education in Irolu-Remo and Ilishan-Remo between 1976 and 1986. He graduated from this prestigious university, Ogun University, then Ogun State University, with MBBS degree in 1993, and won the Best Students Award in orthopedic surgery for that session. He had his mandatory internship at the State Hospital in Ijebu-Ode between 1994 and 1995, and got fully registered with the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. Poised to have a niche in the field of pediatrics with perinatal and neonatal medicine as the area of specialization, the young Ogunlesi, after working in several hospitals in Lagos, proceeded to the Wesley Girls Hospital in Ilesha, a unit of Obafemi Awolowo University Teaching Hospital, for his postgraduate medical training. In April 2005, he obtained the fellowship of the West African College of Physicians in Paediatrics, and that marks the beginning of his joining into clinical academics. Professor Ogunlesi joined the services of Ogun-Lesi University as lecturer 1 in December 2005, and subsequently obtained master's degree of the same university in public health in 2010. Based on his area of specialization, he was appointed a consultant neonatologist in the Ogun-Lesi University Teaching Hospital, Shagamu, in November 2006. He won the fellowship of the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health, UK, in 2011. By means of diligence, commitment, and perseverance, he rose through the ranks and was promoted to the position of Professor of Paediatrics on October 1, 2018. This resourceful researcher of proven track record has won several awards, including a visiting fellowship of the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health in the United Kingdom in 2011. He's a resource person for the World Health Organization, Reproductive Health Library in Nigeria. He's currently the treasurer of the Faculty of Paediatrics in the West African College of Physicians, Nigeria chapter. In recognition of his academic excellence and professional dexterity, Professor T. Ogunlesi has been nominated to serve on a number of university committees and held administrative positions in the university, but his tenure as the coordinator of the community-based medical education and services program between 2011 and 2019 stood out. He also served as external examiner to sister medical schools within Nigeria. Professor T. Ogunlesi belongs to many professional bodies, including Nigerian Medical Association, Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria, Paediatrics Association of Nigeria, Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health, and the Nigerian Society of Neonatal Medicine. Our inaugural lecturer of today is a prolific writer and an academic by excellence. He has to his credit 135 journal articles, lead authored and co-authored, published in reputable national and international medical journals, and almost 2,500 citations in his work on Google Scholar. He has attended 33 learning conferences nationally and internationally, and has also served as a reviewer of several national and international journals. He currently serves as an editor to many medical journals published by professional bodies in Nigeria, including the Annals of Health Research, which is the journal of the Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria, chapter. He has successfully supervised fellowship dissertations of his postgraduate trainees for the West African College of Physicians, where he is an examiner at both the membership and fellowship levels. Professor TINUADE ADETUTU OGUNLESI is happily married to Ogunlesi. Can you please stand up? And with very beautiful kids. It's my pleasure to welcome the inaugural lecturer of today to please deliver his inaugural lecture to this distinguished audience. I welcome you.
Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, other principal officers of the university, provosts of the postgraduate school and colleges, deans of faculties, distinguished professors serving and retired, heads of departments, Your Royal Highnesses here present, my teachers, colleagues, family, and friends, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, great viewers. This lecture is titled Ikunle-Abiyamo, Childbirth, and the 28-day journey, the chances and the choices. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, please permit me to announce that childbirth is of interest to me as a neonatal medicine physician. As a clinician, my patients are the youngest any doctor could have. I look after them over the first 20 days of life, and in the process, I convert my observations to researches and academic publications. As a physician and clinical academician, I have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly about this particular group of children. The ideal and most desired situation is to watch them grow seamlessly from birth through the first 20 days of life without any significant health challenge. At the other extreme are the critically ill ones. We leave them on the ward at the close of work, only to resume the following day and receive the shocking news that they succumbed to the illnesses overnight. This often arises not from professional negligence, but confounders such as deplorable clinical state at the point of admission, an interruption of optimal care by lack of blood in the blood banks, lack of some of the required medications, and prolonged power outages. Most gratifying are the ones we see in distress of some illnesses soon after birth, and we treat their diseases appropriately, and the next time we see them, they are already attending the church. Therefore, this lecture is an opportunity to highlight some of the challenges and victories we usually record while managing this particular group of children over the first 20 days of life. To identify problems, to learn lessons, and to provide solutions. Cultural perspectives of childbirth. Ikunle-Abiyamo. Culture and religion place a high premium on the acts of procreation, that is, from conception, childbirth, and childbearing. In African culture, procreation is the consummation of every marital relationship, and it is an obligation that couples try to meet. Pregnancy and childbirth come with many expectations and emotions. Therefore, the Yoruba pray for young couples as follows. Meaning, may the young bride not stay too long on the mat before she conceives, or may it not take the young bride too long to conceive. This prayer reflects the anxieties surrounding the procreational hopes and aspirations of every couple in Yoruba culture. Therefore, neonatal medicine physicians play a significant role in ensuring, as much as possible, that these hopes and aspirations do not fail. In Yoruba culture, a woman's reproductive capability is measured in terms of her Ikunle-Si, as determined by the number of childbirths she has ever had. Ikunle figuratively depicts the traditional way of squatting to give birth. So, Ikunle-Abiyamo depicts the journey from conception through pregnancy to childbirth, taking into account both stillbirths and live births. The African culture rarely counts miscarriages, but they are equally crucial in the reproductive cycle. Some of the factors that determine the outcome of this journey are the quality of care available to the woman and how the woman is empowered to access the care. The unique role of the woman reflects when perinatal or neonatal deaths occur. The consolatory greeting in Yoruba culture focuses on the woman. Omiludano, Agbekofo, Agbeafomi, meaning, though the water content of the pot spilled, the pot is intact and we fetch water once again. Pot here represents the woman and water the baby. 28-day, the milestone. It is usual to celebrate the milestones babies attain as they grow. One major milestone is the 5th birthday. The under 5 mortality rate refers to the number of children who die before 5 years of age per 1,000 live births. Nigeria's current under 5 mortality rate is 112 per 1,000 live births, meaning that 1 out of every 9 Nigerian children never survives to the 5th birthday milestone. More critical is that close to 45% of these under 5 deaths occur in the first 20 days of life, also known as the newborn or neonatal period. Therefore, the end of the first 20 days of life is another important milestone. In addition, 75% of neonatal deaths occur in the first week of life, while 35 to 50% of these early neonatal deaths occur in the first 24 hours. The current school birth rate of 38 per 1,000 in Nigeria translates to roughly 7.6 million live births yearly. With the current neonatal mortality rate of 36 per 1,000 live births in Nigeria, close to 275,000 babies die within the first 28 days of life every year. This death translates to about 750 neonatal deaths per day all over the country. If we assume an average plane transports about 150 passengers per flight, 750 neonatal deaths per day may translate to about 5 air crashes every day. These 750 newborn deaths per day translate to 31 newborn deaths per hour, meaning that a baby dies every other minute in Nigeria. Gruesome as this picture appears, it is our sad reality. Neonatology, my interest. Neonatology is the aspect of pediatrics that deals with the care of newborn infants from birth over the first 28 days of life. Perinatology is the subset of obstetrics and neonatology that deals with the care of the fetus from the age of fetal viability, which is 28 weeks of pregnancy in Nigeria, through delivery to the first 7 days of life. In the year 2001, as a senior resident, I participated in the management of a set of preterm quintuplets delivered at the Wesley Field Hospital in Elisha. I was subsequently hospitalized in Oxford ward, that is, the neonatal ward. The birth weight of the babies ranged from 0.9 kilograms to 1.1 kilograms. The skills gained and the challenges encountered from that experience led me to develop an interest in neonatology, as only one of the 5 babies survived. In 2009, I also participated in managing a set of preterm septuplets with birth weights ranging from 0.9 kilograms to 1.2 kilograms, delivered at the Ogun-Lesi University Teaching Hospital in Shagamu. We hospitalized the 4 relatively heavier babies in Shagamu and referred the 2 lighter ones to a private facility with neonatal intensive care facilities in Lagos for further care. Like the initial scenario, the government of Ogun State at that time procured equipment and facilities for basic care only. 2 of the 4 babies managed in Shagamu and 1 of the 2 babies managed in Lagos survived in that 2009 set, albeit with several neurological impairments. The outcome is similar to the scenario in the developed world, where extremely preterm babies are increasingly surviving, but with several long-term manifestations of brain damage. High-order births are very unusual in this setting. Both cases should have been opportunities for the government to procure facilities to advance neonatal care for the respective health facilities, but that was not to be, despite the heavy presence of the 2 stories in the press. In 2011, the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health awarded me a visiting fellowship to the United Kingdom, which allowed me to visit the Boston Hospital, West Sussex, and the Trevor-Mann Baby Unit of the Royal County Hospital, Brighton, both in the United Kingdom. That visit exposed me to the National Health Scheme and its benefit in funding public health sector in the UK. I observed that the spectrum of neonatal illnesses in the UK was not entirely different from what we encounter in Nigeria. The minimal perinatal and neonatal mortalities in the developed world are remarkable compared to the developing world. The availability of facilities, equipment, skills, and infrastructure under the NHS will explain the better survival. This experience formed the basis of my belief that efficient health insurance schemes are the solutions to the poor health statistics, including poor perinatal and neonatal survival rates in Africa. With health insurance in place, people can access quality health care services without delays, thus reducing the risk of death. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I have spent over 2 decades taking care of newborn infants, right from my days in postgraduate training at the Oxford Ward, Wesley Field Hospital in Elisha, through my service as a board-certified specialist at the Ogun-Lesi University Teaching Hospital, OUTH Shagamu. I studied this group of children in their first 20 days of life. I have used the knowledge generated from my research on these babies to train and mentor generations of medical students in the university and postgraduate doctors in the teaching hospital in the last 16 years. Therefore, I made bold to stand before this august audience today to present the philosophy of my research in this peculiar group of children. The chances, that is the scope of my research. My research interest in pediatrics revolve around the pattern and causes of perinatal and neonatal death in Elisha and Shagamu, both within the southwestern part of Nigeria. This allowed me to collaborate with colleagues within and outside Shagamu. Severe intrapartum events. Perinatal anesthesia is the most frequent severe intrapartum event known, and it results in the ability of the newborn baby to initiate and maintain spontaneous respiration following birth. It accounts for up to 23% of all neonatal deaths globally. In Shagamu, perinatal anesthesia contributed 27.8% of neonatal admissions and 18.2% of neonatal deaths between 2010 and 2012. This pattern is comparable to the 24.8% of all neonatal admissions earlier recorded in the study of babies hospitalized within the first week of life in Shagamu between 2005 and 2006. However, it was not surprising that more than half of the babies were outborn, since skilled birth attendants might not have been available at such places of birth. Hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy is a leading complication of perinatal anesthesia. When it is severe, it may lead to death or be associated with brain damage among survivors, usually with long-term sequelae such as cerebral palsy and epilepsy. In Shagamu, HIE occurred among a third of babies with perinatal anesthesia, and 80.5% of the affected babies were outborn. This observation suggests that outborn anesthesiated babies are likely to suffer more brain damage due to lack of optimal neuroprotective care in the immediate postpartum period and before hospitalization. Therefore, caregivers should prevent delays in seeking appropriate care for aspirated babies delivered outside the hospital. It appears that poor obstetric care seeking behavior related to poor finances and social cultural impediments is the bane of outborn babies. And this is the basis for more unsatisfactory perinatal outcomes among them. Unfortunately, the birth of over 50% of babies take place outside the hospitals in Nigeria. And in a study of outborn babies with perinatal anesthesia in Shagamu, close to 2/3 of pregnant women delayed seeking care in health facilities after the onset of labor for socio-economic reasons. Most of the mothers initially attended unorthodox facilities where most of the babies who suffered anesthesia received ineffective assistance at birth. Therefore, it is not surprising that close to 4/5 of the babies in this cohort presented with HIE at OGUNLESI. This observation shows the relationship between delay in seeking appropriate obstetric care, poor quality of intrapartum care, and risk of severe intrapartum events in the baby. How ready are health facilities outside the tertiary level for neonatal care? In a study covering selected secondary health facilities in 4 of the 6 states in southwest Nigeria, Ogun, Oyo, and Ekiti, conducted between 2005 and 2006, only 14% of all the health workers surveyed had previously attended a neonatal resuscitation training course. Most of the health facilities surveyed did not have the essential equipment for neonatal resuscitation. Although 90.5% of the health workers surveyed had good knowledge of assessing newborn babies at birth, only 49.7% knew the proper steps to take in neonatal resuscitation. These observations highlighted 2 challenges. 1, the unpreparedness of some public health facilities for effective immediate postnatal care for babies, and 2, the inability of strong health workers who attend deliveries to act appropriately in helping babies to breathe. The observed trend of poor readiness for neonatal resuscitation justifies the annual National Neonatal Resuscitation Training Program, which is organized by a combination of the Paediatric Association of Nigeria, the Nigerian Society of Neonatal Medicine, and the Latter Saints Church, USA. This training was shown to remarkably improve the knowledge and skills of physicians and midwives about neonatal resuscitation. The improved knowledge and skills should translate to reduced incidence of perinatal asphyxia at the various institutions. The findings in this study justify advocacies for routine training and retraining of healthcare workers at all government levels. Neonatal hyperbilirubinemia. This is also known as neonatal jaundice, characterized by yellowish discoloration of the skin and mucous membranes, and it forms 21% of all admissions and 12.7% of all neonatal deaths in Shagamu between 2010 and 2012. The most important complication of neonatal hyperbilirubinemia is brain damage that is known as acute bilirubin encephalopathy, ABE, which causes death in up to 30% of affected babies. At the same time, the survivors, that is those with chronic bilirubin encephalopathy, develop various handicapping complications. In a study of the pattern of hyperbilirubinemia and ABE at Elisha and Shagamu, carried out between 2001 and 2005, ABE occurred among 14.8 to 17.2% of all babies admitted with any degree of severity of jaundice. More than 95% of these babies with ABE in the series were outborn. About half of the babies also received ineffectual home remedies for jaundice, and this include purple leaf extract, Ampiclox, that's a combination of ampicillin and clozapine, and glucose drinks before presentation in the hospital. These findings were similar to those of another study of 10 babies with significant hyperbilirubinemia in Shagamu, in which 49.3% of the babies had acute bilirubin encephalopathy. In both studies, most babies, that is greater than 95%, presenting with severe hyperbilirubinemia actually presented with established acute bilirubin encephalopathy, and they were also outborn, similar to the findings of OWA and Ogunlesi. That is an indication that inborn babies have the advantage of significantly reduced risk of ABE due to prompt access to effective care. A study in Shagamu recently demonstrated delays in presenting outborn babies with severe hyperbilirubinemia and ABE to the hospital for effective treatment. In that survey, only 15% of babies presenting with established acute bilirubin encephalopathy arrived at the hospital within 24 hours of onset of the illness, whereas 70% of the babies had also received various ineffectual home remedies before presentation in the hospital. Despite the availability of effective treatment modalities for neonatal hyperbilirubinemia, poor healthcare seeking behavior is a significant reason for the persistence of acute bilirubin encephalopathy in this part of the world. A study of outborn babies hospitalized with hyperbilirubinemia in Shagamu revealed that more than 2/3 of the babies were delivered in private hospitals and traditional birth homes. In such places, the babies could not have had a thorough assessment and monitoring for hyperbilirubinemia early in life. Hence, close to 2/3 had critically high levels of total serum bilirubin at the point of admission. Over 1/3 of the mothers delayed seeking appropriate care due to socioeconomic factors and ignorance, while 29.1% also administered ineffectual home remedies to the babies. Although the use of home remedies cut across all social classes, it was worse among the poorly educated ones. It was also associated with delay in seeking effective care for more than 48 hours. Low maternal education remarkably negatively influenced care-seeking behavior for unborn babies with significant hyperproteinemia. Owa and Ogunlesi study, 2009, revealed that the non-availability of effective phototherapy devices remains a significant challenge in the care of babies with hyperproteinemia. Phototherapy uses special blue light to remove bilirubin from the skin of babies with hyperproteinemia. Further, in a study of phototherapy devices across neonatal care centers in Nigeria, Owa et al. Reported that only 6% of devices imported and locally fabricated had optimal irradiance for phototherapy. In Shagamu, a study compared the efficacy of old imported phototherapy devices and locally fabricated compact fluorescence lamp devices. The study employed the peak values of serum total bilirubin, duration of phototherapy, and frequency of exchange blood transfusion as proxies for the efficacy of phototherapy. The babies treated with CFL devices had better clearance of serum bilirubin and lesser risk of complications. The study suggested that these CFL devices were efficacious for facility-based management of significant neonatal hyperproteinemia. These observations are similar to reports from Ethiopia on the successful use of locally fabricated phototherapy devices with light-emitting diodes and CFL. Exchange blood transfusion is a form of massive blood transfusion effective for rapid reduction of serum bilirubin and preventing ABE. Still, it may be complicated by hypocalcemia among other morbidities. Effective. Our practice included routine prophylactic administration of calcium to every baby who had exchange blood transfusion to prevent the development of hypocalcemia. There is an ongoing randomized controlled trial on the effect of prophylactic intravenous calcium on EBT-induced hypocalcemia in Shagamu. The study has shown so far that the mean serum calcium levels in the subjects, that is, babies who received prophylactic calcium, and the controls, babies who received placebo, were similar at 6 hours and 24 hours post-EBT. Therefore, the study concluded that prophylactically administered calcium did not prevent hypocalcemia in the first 24 hours post-EBT. This observation cast doubt on the usefulness of prophylactic administration of calcium in the prevention of EBT-induced hypocalcemia. And this report is similar to the finding in an earlier systematic review that showed no significant serum calcium elevation following prophylactic administration during EBT. In conclusion, it is better to routinely check serum calcium levels following EBT to confirm the presence of hypocalcemia before the administration of calcium. Sepsis and other serious infections. Sepsis, including severe invasive infections such as septicemia, meningitis, pneumonia, and tetanus, form 36% of all global neonatal deaths. They also contributed 24.4% of neonatal admissions and 10.9% of all neonatal deaths in Shagamu. In a study conducted over 2006 to 2008 in Shagamu, a third of babies with risk factors or clinical manifestations suggestive of sepsis had bacteriologically confirmed sepsis, with Staphylococcus aureus being the leading causative organisms in both the early onset type as well as the late onset type. While Klebsiella species and Staphylococcus epidemics contributed to the early onset type and the late onset type, respectively. Only 36.7% of the bacterial isolates were sensitive to the 2 drugs used for a critical treatment of sepsis in the unit at that moment. The case fertility rate was higher among babies in whom the organisms were resistant to those drugs used for the empirical treatment than those in whom the organisms were sensitive to both drugs. We're talking of 40% versus 20.5%. This pattern calls for frequent reviews of the antibiograms for empirical antibiotic treatment of sepsis. Further, the findings on bacterial etiology, clinical patterns, and antibiogram in neonatal sepsis in Shagamu were similar to reports obtained from Elisha. Therefore, systematic studies of the bacteriology of neonatal sepsis are desirable to track possible changes in the pattern of etiology and antibiotic sensitivity in neonatal sepsis over time. Tetanus is a fatal or preventable, non-contagious infectious disease which is associated with poverty and lack of access to basic health care. According to the WHO, tetanus contributed to 7% of neonatal deaths, and this disease constituted 1.7% of neonatal admissions in Shagamu. In a study carried out in Elisha between 1996 and year 2000, 5.3% of neonatal admissions also had tetanus. The study observed poor antenatal care, inadequate anti-tetanus vaccination during pregnancy, and unhygienic deliveries among the mothers of babies with neonatal tetanus. The case fatality rate was 43.8%, but the annual mortality rate in neonatal tetanus at that time progressively declined from 61.1% to 29% over the previous study. How reliable is the anti-tetanus vaccine? In another study of babies hospitalized with tetanus in Shagamu, although 72.6% of mothers did not receive anti-tetanus vaccination, 13.7% each had 1 or 2 doses of the vaccine respectively. Survival in the babies of partially immunized mothers was 62.5%, compared with 26.5% in the babies of unimmunized mothers. It is unclear why babies of some vaccinated mothers developed tetanus. However, the vaccine might have lost its potency at some point, or some immunized mothers may have an inadequate immune response to the vaccine for various reasons. However, vaccination reduced the risk of death among babies of partially immunized mothers, suggesting that low doses of anti-tetanus vaccine, though not ideal for optimal care, will still protect against death should these babies eventually develop tetanus. Prematurity and low birth rate. Preterm infants are babies delivered before 37 completed weeks of gestation. In addition, preterm often weighs less than 2.5 kilograms. That is low birth rate. Hence, the complications of prematurity and low birth rate are similar. The more immature a baby is, the lower the body weight and the higher the risk of complications and the higher the risk of death. From major complications such as hypothermia, intraventricular bleeding, respiratory distress syndrome, sepsis, and congenital malformations. The WHO identified prematurity as constituting 34.5% of neonatal deaths, while in Shagamu, preterm birth was responsible for 17.9% of all neonatal admissions and 34.5% of neonatal deaths between 2010 and 2012. Apnea, which is cessation of breath for more than 15 seconds with life-threatening events, is a common final pathway in many morbidities in the newborn, worse among preterm babies. A study in Shagamu reported that apnea occurred among 19.4% of hospitalized babies. Preterm babies formed 74.7% of babies with apnea, mostly idiopathic in origin. The study also revealed the benefits of prophylactic intravenous aminophylline in preterm babies at risk of apnea or prematurity, particularly when they have respiratory distress of any cause. OGUNLESI conducted a study of hospitalized low birth weight babies, that is, babies weighing less than 2.5 kilograms, in Shagamu in the year 2008. The babies weighing less than 1.5 kilograms at birth, known as very low birth weight, constituted 48.8% of all low birth weight babies and 21.3% of all neonatal admissions. Comorbidities such as asphyxia, sepsis, jaundice, respiratory distress syndrome were present in 71.8% of this category of babies. The overall survival rate among these babies in this resource-constrained level 2 facility was almost half, compared with 84.9% for those weighing 1.5 kilograms and above. So survival among very low birth weight babies was associated with gestational age 32 weeks and above, and the absence of comorbidities such as respiratory distress, asphyxia, apnea, metabolic acidosis, and hypothermia. Intraventricular hemorrhage, a form of bleeding into the brain, is common morbidity among preterm babies and contributes to mortality and long-term handicap in babies delivered preterm. In a study conducted at Ilesha between 2012 and 2013, using transfrontal ultrasound scan, about a quarter of these babies had intraventricular hemorrhage, and the prevalence of intraventricular hemorrhage was inversely related to gestational age. The more immature babies had the highest prevalence of hemorrhage. The risk factors for IVH included early onset sepsis, asphyxia, and lack of antenatal steroid use in the mother. The case fatality rate among babies with intraventricular hemorrhage was 66.7%, and this rate increased with severity of intraventricular hemorrhage. The study recommended transfrontal ultrasonography in the routine care of very low birth babies for early detection of intraventricular hemorrhage. The protective role of antenatal steroids against intraventricular hemorrhage in preterm very low birth weight babies also needs to be investigated further. The choices, the practices, and prospects. As clearly shown above, except for little congenital malformations, most of the causes of newborn death in Nigeria are either preventable with efforts appropriately applied at the primary care level or easily treatable in a well-equipped special care baby unit. Only a minority will require level 3 care, but the risk of death is high among babies who need level 3 care. Unfortunately, the primary care system in Nigeria does not function optimally in most cases. More than half of newborn babies in Nigeria are delivered outside health facilities unsupervised, and which compounds the situation. They usually seek help from trained health workers for the first time, only when they become seriously ill. At this point, they are too sick to be managed at the primary health care level, which is the level of care closest to them. Hence, they are referred, and that takes more time as the illness also worsens. The unsatisfactory state of primary health care and other social-cultural factors further delay appropriate care. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the availability of advanced neonatal care makes the difference between the survival rate of sick babies in the developed world and those in the resource parts of the developing world. It is attractive to suggest that each state government needs to establish a state-of-the-art neonatal intensive care unit with a functional referral system to improve access to advanced neonatal intensive care facilities. Indeed, establishing and maintaining a neonatal intensive care unit is capital intensive, but a modest estimate of 200 million naira will satisfactorily equip a 35-cot facility. Ironically, a bulletproof vehicle for just one political office holder will also cost about 200 million naira. While the need for such cars is not under contention, the government and people should weigh the benefit of the expenditure for a single political office holder against the benefits hundreds of babies may derive from the same amount of money if judiciously used to provide neonatal intensive care service. Focus of care. In developing countries, the major risk factors for perinatal asphyxia include lack of good antenatal care, poor intrapartum care-seeking behavior, poor management of labor, and low capability for helping babies to breathe. Efforts to reduce the contribution of informal places of birth to the burden of severe intrapartum events need to include co-opting the traditional birth attendants into the formal scheme. The attendants should have adequate basic training, and the government should provide incentives for every case of complicated labor that they refer to the hospital. This practice will translate to reduced incidence, morbidities, and mortality in perinatal asphyxia. Current efforts to prevent further brain damage post-asphyxia include the use of neuroprotective therapies such as selective cerebral cooling and synthetic erythropoietin. These therapies improve survival and long-term neurologic functions in babies who suffer asphyxia with HIV, but they are largely unavailable in many parts of the developing world, Nigeria inclusive. Nevertheless, the administration of magnesium sulfate within 6 hours of birth is currently undergoing clinical trials in many parts of Nigeria, and it appears promising. Acute bilirubin encephalopathy rarely occurs among neonates who remain in the hospital in the first week of life, due to the advantage of close monitoring and prompt intervention. If need be, therefore, early recognition is crucial to the successful management of neonatal hyperbilirubinemia. Thank you. Total serum bilirubin greater than 5 mg per dl at the 6th hour of life may predict the risk of severe hyperbilirubinemia at 72 hours of life. Hence, such at-risk babies can be kept in the hospital for monitoring. The assessment of the severity of jaundice using a non-invasive transcutaneous bilirubin meter is reliable among Nigerian babies. This method of bilirubinometry does not require the use of reagents and give results immediately. Hence, the experts can train primary health care workers in the use of transcutaneous bilirubinometry. With early recognition of jaundice and early commencement of efficient phototherapy, we can avoid exchange blood transfusion and its various complications. This practice can also prevent brain damage from severe hyperbilirubinemia. In the absence of magnetic resonance imaging (MRI) and autoacoustic emissions (OAE) for the prediction of acute bilirubin encephalopathy, the Paed's current system may reliably predict the severity of bilirubin encephalopathy among Nigerian infants. Therefore, efficient use of the Paed's current system may detect reversible forms of bilirubin encephalopathy early and appropriate intervention instituted before brain damage becomes extensive and irreversible. The age-long practice of exposing jaundiced babies to early morning sunlight as a form of phototherapy is to be discouraged because it delays effective treatment. Some researchers have also recorded good outcomes and acceptability using filtered sunlight phototherapy to treat neonatal jaundice in a Nigerian specialist facility. Another improvement over conventional phototherapy is using locally fabricated compact fluorescent lamps and the light-emitting diode phototherapy devices as modifications of imported conventional phototherapy devices in Shalom. Despite this progress, one major limitation in the developing world remains the lack of an irradiance meter. Health workers need this device for the quantification of the efficiency of phototherapy devices. On average, an irradiance meter costs about $2,000. Another major challenge in managing neonatal hyperbilirubinemia in the developing world is poor adherence to existing guidelines by practitioners at the secondary and tertiary levels of care. Therefore, Olusanya and co-researchers developed local guidelines for managing hyperbilirubinemia in term and late preterm babies in Nigeria, using other guidelines obtained from parts of Africa and Asia. One of the major causes of death among preterm babies is respiratory failure from various causes. Hence, appropriate interventions such as the assisted ventilation are life-saving. Assisted ventilation with the improvised nasal bubble, continuous positive airway pressure ventilation is efficient in airway management of preterm babies. This procedure has vastly reduced the need for expensive and technically challenging invasive mechanical ventilation therapy used in the developed world. In addition, the use of the kangaroo mother care method, that is continuous skin-to-skin contact between the infant and the mother, has reduced the incidence of hypothermia and infections among sick preterm and low birth weight infants, and also improved exclusive breastfeeding rates and reduced mortality. Babies nursed using the conventional kangaroo mother care method, initiated after the initial fertilization, have a 40% lower mortality than those who received traditional care without kangaroo mother care. The most recent findings suggest that the commencement of kangaroo mother care immediately after birth, rather than waiting for stabilization among babies weighing between 1.0 kilogram and 1.79 kilogram, further improves survival by 25% compared to those who received conventional kangaroo mother care following initial stabilization. This care method provides the infant with the basic requirements for survival, and this includes warmth, stimulation, breast milk, and protection. Evidence-based medicine. I ventured into the world of evidence-based medicine in 2012 when I attended a training course on evidence-based medicine organized by the South African Cochrane Center, Nigeria, at the Institute of Tropical Diseases Research, University of Calabar Teaching Hospital, Calabar, Nigeria. My friend and colleague, Professor Olufemi Taiwo, facilitated this opportunity. I have published systematic reviews in the Cochrane Systematic Review database, hence I consider myself at an advantage to state without mincing words and without fears of contradictions that published Cochrane systematic reviews are products of rigorous research works. These reviews deserve to be graded like any other original research for academic career progression, as practiced in some sister institutions in Nigeria. Indeed, some researchers have proposed that systematic reviews be acceptable for PhD thesis. In the nearest future, evidence-based medicine will form the basis of the undergraduate medical curriculum in Nigeria, as earlier recommended. Contribution to academics. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, apart from personal journal publications, lead authored and co-authored, numbering 135 as of June 2021, I have also contributed to medical knowledge through dissemination of research findings. I served as an assistant editor for neonatology in the UK-based journal, the BMC Paediatrics, and I still serve as the sessional editor for Paediatrics in the Nigerian Journal of Clinical Practice. I'm currently on the editorial board of the Nigerian Journal of Paediatrics and the African Journal of Science and Nature, a journal of this institution. In 2015, the Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria, Shagamu chapter, floated a peer-reviewed medical journal, the Annals of Health Research, and appointed me the editor-in-chief. From inception, that journal, published in electronic and print form, has moved from biannual to quarterly publication frequency, and has also been interested in international databases such as the African Index Medicals, Index of Medicals, and the Directory of Open Access Journals. Conclusions and recommendations. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, since the lack of adequate funding appears to be the bane of efficient perinatal and neonatal care services in Nigeria, different health financing models appropriate for the developing world need to be put to test. The existing National Health Insurance Scheme needs to be expanded to include newborn care. Given the limited coverage of the National Health Insurance Scheme, the community-based insurance model appears to be the most attractive alternative. Local cooperative societies are thriving in the most remote communities and are often oversubscribed. Similarly, members of local trade guilds make daily contributions with which they successfully run their associations. Health administrators can also deploy these methods into funding community-based health insurance schemes. It may be a lot easier for Nigerians in the middle and lower socioeconomic strata to contribute a token of 100 naira every day, as they do for their guild or association fees, than to pay a lump sum of 3,000 naira per month into a health insurance scheme. Experts in sociology, insurance, and public sector economy may assist us with developing appropriate community-based insurance models. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, this institution can also add biomedical engineering to its present fleet of engineering courses. This idea may solve many of the existing high-grade challenges hampering quality newborn care in Nigeria due to lack of equipment. It may also assist with the fabrication of some of the various monitors required for optimal newborn care service. The Paediatric Association of Nigeria and the Nigerian Society of Neonatal Medicine deserve commendation for the various efforts to train healthcare workers in the care of newborn babies and update treatment guidelines according to the tenets of helping babies survive. Beyond that, they also need to increase the advocacy capabilities, particularly for better funding of newborn care services. If newborn health care cannot be provided free of charge, the health administrators should deploy the various health insurance schemes highlighted above and more. These innocent babies deserve to be saved so they can flourish, multiply, and replenish the earth. Children are voiceless, and only these professional bodies can convincingly speak for them. Acknowledgement. I am most grateful to God Almighty for taking me through the journey of life as a whole, and academic challenges in particular. I appreciate my teachers, living and those of blessed memory, who saw what I did not see for adequately preparing me for this speech. I have also enjoyed a lot of warmth and support from members of my department, some of whom were actually my teachers in the medical school in this great institution. Others have been my co-researchers with whom I have collaborated for research purposes, especially from the days of the old college ICT center at Paediatrics Center, Shagamu. I sincerely appreciate all the giants, too numerous to mention, on whose shoulders I stood to attain this height. I acknowledge all the colleagues and friends I have ever worked with at the Wesley Guild Hospital in Ilesha, Oaks Shagamu, OOUTA Shagamu, and of course, Babcock University in Ilesha. I appreciate all the university principal officers and my college and faculty leadership for being supportive. I am particularly grateful to the Vice Chancellor, Professor Ikunle-Abiyamo, an excellent administrator, a very resourceful, approachable, friendly, and hardworking leader. I must also acknowledge the custodian of the culture and tradition of my place of birth. Kábíyèsí Ọba Síkírù Adéyẹyẹ, Agbélé-Ṣebí Ogun report, the Inaugural Lecture. I am profoundly grateful to my siblings of blue blood, for their love and support right from my cradle. I'm greatly indebted to my parents, Alayeluwa Baba William Ajibola Ogunlesi, Lukman-Jadin II, the Inaugural Lecture between 1965 and 1990, and Olori Margaret Ogunlesi, both of blessed memory. I appreciate them for nurturing me and for putting my feet on the path of honor that I walk to this moment. My children, Taiwo Adedabola, Kehinde Adedoyinsola, Toluwade Asheoba Funmilaide, they are deeply appreciated for their love, understanding, and support. I pray that they will continue to excel in their endeavors. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, this acknowledgement will be incomplete without mentioning my spouse, my friend, my confidant, my defender, my co-researcher, pillar of my support, my left wing, Oluwafunmilayo, Abosede, Morenikeji, Akake, Ogunlesi. Comment, I could not have come this far without your great understanding and support. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir, other principal officers of the university, Kábíyèsí Aláṣẹ Ọ̀ṣọ́, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you most sincerely for sparing time to join me in this celebration. God bless you.
Destiny, I have waited patiently. I have vision, oh I believe. I know I can count on me. So stand up for the champions, for the champions. Stand up, stand up, stand up for the champions, stand up for the champions.
You may be seated, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Olatunji, management, staff, and the entire students of Olabisi Obanjo University, we want to thank you most sincerely for honoring our inaugural lecture today with your visit to the university campus. We thank particularly our guests who are visiting this university for the first time. We appreciate the presence of Kábíyèsí, the Oníròlú of Ìròlú, Kiadepeluri, Kibata Pelese. We thank you, the friends of the inaugural lecturer, for honoring us with your visit today. As soon as the Vice Chancellor declares the ceremony closed, may I please request you to please stand and remain standing until the procession exits in reverse order. Thank you very much, you're welcome, and I wish you successful journey back to your various destinations. Thank you. May I now invite the Vice Chancellor to please declare this ceremony closed. Vice Chancellor.
It's been a great day, and I congratulate Professor Ogunlesi. I declare the 97th Inaugural Lecture closed. Safe trip to your parents' destination.
Wishing you once again, safely back to your way of destination. Thank you.